Hey Stampin' friends, I am so glad to be back with you today, and I want to introduce you to all of these gorgeous in colors. They are the new in colors in the new 2021 to 2022 annual catalog. If you don't have a catalog, please reach out right away and I will get one to you. Each year, Stampin' Up! Introduces 5 new colors to our base color palette of 40 colors. For those people that purchased this initially when the catalog came out, I also offered a kit of cards. I did all the die cutting and provided all the materials that they would need to complete these 5 projects. I'm going to demonstrate that project to you today. I'm going to recreate one of those cards. And I want to show you the designer paper. I want to show you the beautiful stamp set and colors that we incorporated and the stamp bundle that we used to make these cards. Now, if you do not have this bundle, you can use something similar that you might have on hand to recreate the same card, because I'm basically using a flower design and a simple greeting on the outside and inside of the card. Let me get these out of the way and I'll show you the designer paper that I chose. And when I show it to you, you'll see why, because this designer paper represents all of the new in colors. Aren't they beautiful? They're all a floral design. And what I love most of all about our designer paper, there's always a side B. And these are more soft, subtle colors, even though the colors themselves can be strong and dynamic. This was my rendition of Fresh Freesia. Now, all of these cards are the same. I just used a different color palette. And you'll notice that I used designer paper to color the flap of the envelope, something I encourage you to do if you have scraps left over. Pale Papaya, our Polished Pink, our Just Jade, and I lost a piece on here. Let me pull it out on my card. This is the Evening Evergreen. And you can see that this is a very strong green color. The rest of them I would consider to be very subtle shades. So those of you that receive these kits with your purchase, I'm going to recreate the Fresh Freesia color, but all of the cards will be put together and stamped the same way. Now again, if you do not have the bundle that I used, which is the hand-pinned petals and pinned flowers, then you can use any floral print paper and any floral image that you have on hand. But I would encourage you to consider this bundle. Right now, while Celebration is still alive through the end of September, when you purchase any minimum of $50 in product, you have a small catalog of products that you can get for free. Now would be a great time to invest in this bundle. So this is the hand pinned petals suite, and the pinned flowers along with, this is a suite of products actually. The papers were made to coordinate with this bundle. And of course, all of these papers match very well with all of the new in colors. So let's get on our project. I'm going to show you the pieces and parts that you will need to recreate the cards. If you receive the kits already, all of the pieces and parts have been cut for you. You just need to trim your designer paper, as that was part of your kit as well. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But let's walk through the pieces and parts first of all. Now, if you're doing this with another pattern of paper, I would recommend that you trim a 6x6 piece of designer paper. You will need a card base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. So this is the Fresh Freesia cardstock. Remember, we're working with our new in colors. And this is a typical card base. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock that has been cut in half and then scored in half. You'll need some basic white, and you'll need 2 scraps. One scrap needs to be 3 1/4 by 3 3/4, and one needs to be 3/4 inches wide. The length won't matter as much. We just need to be able to stamp the word thanks. Now, this scrap is used specifically to cut out the die only. Now, there is a stamp, but I used only the die to create the image for the front of the card. So if you're using a different bundle at home, you're not using these dies or the stamp set, then look for a focal flower image in your stamp sets and in your supplies. Now, the layered piece on the front is Fresh Freesia again, and that's a 3 by 4 piece of cardstock. The scalloped layer on the front of the card is 5.5 by 4. Let me show you where this comes from. I chose the Scalloped Contours dies. Now, this is also a bundle called Color and Contour, but I chose to use the die image, the largest one in the package, to die cut this. So you would have a 5.5 by 4 piece of cardstock. You would use this die to cut it. So these are beautiful layering images for your cards. Now, this piece was also cut with the Color and Contour die. So if you're looking for a staple layering set of dies for your materials at home to make more cards, this would be a great die set to consider. Now, I have used one additional die, and that is to create the inside of the card. Let's open that up. I didn't even show that to you. So this die fits here. And this piece is 4.5 by 3.5. I have a small strip of the designer paper, and you'll have that left over when you use the opposite side of the designer paper to cover your envelope flap. You will have a 1/2 inch left. And then the piece that is on the inside against the card base is 5 1/4 by 4. And that's fairly standard when you add a piece of Whisper White to the inside of your card. So that is our pieces and parts. I'm going to push these out of the way for now, and I will be using them as we create the cards. So I'm going to set them aside. And if you have your piece of designer paper, whether it's the hand pen petals paper or whether it's another type of designer paper, go ahead and get that 6x6 piece out. If you need to, pause the video. And when you come back, be sure you have your paper trimmer. I'm going to take my piece of 6x6 paper, and in this case, this paper is directional. I don't know if you can see that, but my flowers are running in this direction. And I need my paper to face this way on the card. Let me show that to you. I need the direction of my blossoms facing upward, like flowers typically grow. So be cognizant of that if you're pulling out a piece of floral paper, if it's a piece that can run in any direction, you're great. If you have a piece like this, you want to pay more careful attention to which way the blossoms would naturally grow, and that would be from bottom to top. Now, this piece of paper, this is very important. This is going to be cut at 3 1/4. Now, if you're looking at the trimmer, you go to the 3 on your trimmer and you move 1/4 inch to the left. So 3 1/4. And this is my cutting blade. If you have a Stampin' Up! Trimmer, it's the dark gray. This is your cutting blade. Now I'm going to turn my paper 90 degrees to 4 1/2. So I'm at the 4 inch mark, and I'm going to move it to the 1/2 inch mark. Now I'm at 4 1/2. And again, I'm going to use my cutting blade. Makes a nice clean cut. You can set this aside. So now I have the piece for the front of my card that will go right here. Oh, I love this fresh freesia. It's so pretty. Now, this piece is going to be used to cover the envelope. I want to pull in the stamp set again. I try when I give you a kit or suite of products to use the greetings most commonly from that stamp set. And so this suite of products, hand and pen petals, really represents the new ink colors the best. And I chose to use the thanks. But I want to show you something really cool that Stampin' Up! Has started to do. Remember let me bring it in and show you. When you get a new stamp set, there's usually a piece of acetate and then a cover sheet over top of it to hold your stamps in the case. But with the new photopolymer stamp sets, what they're doing now is they're actually printing the images of the stamps, excuse me, on the inside cover of the stamp set. Isn't that fabulous? So now, when this is inside the case, I actually will know if I have anything missing. I can just simply place my stamps over top of the images. It's awesome. I love it. Now I need the word thanks, so I'm going to pull that out. And if you're new to stamping, our clear stamps are photopolymer stamps, meaning that they are a clear rubber plastic resin, and because they are see-through, that means I can be a little bit more accurate in my stamping. Now, to mount a stamp, whether you're an experienced stamper or a new stamper, this is why I love our grid paper. You can buy the grid paper in a big pad. I think there's 100 sheets. So if you have a friend that stamps, split the cost of a pack of the grid paper and divide it up. It'll last you a while. Now I use a lot because I put it on the table in my classes. I do a lot of stamping. I do a lot of prep work like I'm doing right now. So I go through a lot of grid paper. But use your grid paper to your advantage. Line your stamp up, then simply place your block, holding it on all four corners over the top of your stamp. And now we have that lined up and ready to use on our card. Now I've already mounted the inside greeting, and I chose to bring in another stamp set called Pansy Patch because I loved the greeting, it said exactly what I needed on the inside. So the outside says thanks, and the inside says the little things you do make such a big difference. And I don't know about you, but in recent months, I have had so many dear, dear friends do so many wonderful things for our family after the debacle with our house. And if you don't know about that, I'm happy to share that with you at some later time. The passing of our sister-in-law. There are so many things to thank people for. The little things they do really make a big difference. And so I don't know about you, I always need a big stack of thank you cards. Ken and I so many times are on the receiving end of people's kindness and blessings to us. So moving on, let's do some stamping. Let's bring back in our scrap of, or the strip that I showed you that was 3/4 of an inch. That's where we'll stamp our thanks. And then we will need this inside piece, which is 4.5 by 3.5. Now, if you do not have the scallop contoured dies, simply trim out a piece of, basic white paper, or perhaps you have another layering type die. If you have the Stitch So Sweetly, it might have a die in it that will cut out this layer. I'm not sure. You'll have to take a look at that. But both of these are going to need some stamping. And I'm going to use the Fresh Freesia, of course. Stampin' Up! Has been coordinating its colors by way of stamps and designer paper and cardstock and ribbon and embellishments. And that's what Stampin' Up! Is really known for, and it's really what attracted me to Stampin' Up! In the beginning. I was a scrapbooker. I was looking for something where I didn't have to stand in a store and match up colors and papers and cardstock. I found that all with Stampin' Up! So it's been wonderful for me in my crafting journey. So when we ink up our stamp, we don't dig it down inside the ink pad. These are juicy, and the ink is held on the top surface of the ink pad. So you may want to just go around and tap lightly like a bird. Tap, 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 tap. You want to hold all 4 corners of your block. You want to go straight down on your cardstock and hold it on all 4 corners for just a second and lift straight back up. And then we've stamped the perfect image. Let's look at that again. This time I'm going to stamp my inside greeting, and again I'm going to kind of tap, tap, tap lightly all around my ink pad, all over the surface of it, and not just in the middle. And with my grid paper, I'm going to go probably about 1/4 of an inch down, and I'm going to use my grid paper to look side to side, lay this down, hold it for just a second, and straight back up. And now I have a perfectly stamped image. All right, we have our stamping done. I love that. We're getting to the point almost where we're just going to start putting our card together. Let's go back to the front for just a moment. We have one more element on the front that we need to talk about. Because I use the Pin Flowers die, and let me pull this out. I want you to actually see the die. And if you're new to stamping, the dies are created to fit around the stamped images. So for instance, this stamp set, or I'm sorry, this die fits around this image. So I would stamp that, I would color it, and then I would die cut it. This image has an outline, just like that. And the die fits nicely around it. But it also has this image that matches the flower structure there. So what I could do is I could cut out the inside of the flower like I have done, and I could use my sponge daubers, I could use my sponge rollers, I could use my sponges, and I could color this image if I wanted to coordinate. But of course I chose the white because the cardstock itself frames out the image so well. But this is where I got this image. So when I die cut the image, I will tell you, this was the time that I was very easily able to take our die brush attachment. It's a brush attachment that you can purchase separately from your U-Pick tool, and I used it to simply get out all the little dots and pieces on the inside, and it pops out nicely. This is an easy die to use. So that's how I got this image, by simply die cutting a piece of basic white. So let me get these items out of the way for now. Let me get them back in the package. To be sure I have the right ones. Very often I take my dies off of the packaging that Stampin' Up! Has provided because of these sticky strips, and I put it on a piece of magnetic sheet. Now, I did a video, if you want to go back on this Facebook page and you go to the files section, or you go to the video listing for this Facebook page, you will see a series of videos on stamping supplies, and I talk about these magnetic sheets. If you go onto a crafting website, they're expensive. If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy air conditioning magnetic covers, you can cut the sizes that you need. So go to that video. I won't spend any more time talking about that, but I thought about it as I was putting these back. I need to get this set on a magnetic sheet. I do much better, and they're easier to pull in and out of the package if I have them on the magnetic sheet. We've done everything but the ribbon, and I want to let you know that I simply tied a knot. I mean, let me do that here real quickly. Now, don't cheat yourself on the ribbon. Sometimes, you know, in our efforts to economize with our ribbon, we really wear our fingers out and make it more difficult. This ribbon is so tiny. Honestly, if I had had another scrap of this Fresh Freesia ribbon, I would be using it, but I don't have any scraps currently. So, it only takes, it probably doesn't even take 3 inches. So that's how small we're actually making this little piece that's going to go on the front of our card. Now I want to attach this image to my piece of cardstock. I could pick up my green glue and I could go around the back of this, but chances are I might drip some glue through or make a mess on my work surface, and I really don't want to do that. So let me show you another way that you can easily put adhesive on the back of these types of images. And this is one of our silicone sheets. So these are great. You can pick them up. They're very, I think they're $5 in the catalog. They're very inexpensive. And let me get my glue going here. I might have to get my paper piercer out and get it going. It's very humid here today, and I notice that on more humid days that the glue gets clogged up in the bottle. I don't know if you have that problem. So just put a little bit of glue on the edge, because this is going to wipe right off of this surface, and it's going to keep my surface from being sticky. I use one of our stamping sponges and just a clip from the office supply store, and I make myself a little dauber, and I pick up a little bit of that glue and I simply go around the back of this, and that way I get glue on the whole surface. Attach. Let me get back in the camera here. So that's all I'm going to do. That's how I got my pretty floral image. Now, if you're working with something else at home, it's going to be a little bit different process for you. But the idea is to have one main focal image. All right, we're going to set that aside. Now, I need something a little stronger to hold my ribbon on with, so I am going to use a glue dot. Glue dots come on a roll, and they're very hard to see. I don't know if you can see it on this image, but I like to take the ribbon to the glue dot. And this needs to be rolled up just a little. Take your finger, roll it up, pick it up, and go right to the stem of the flower. And that's all you have to do. So we have that part ready. All right, let's move to the next. Let's start layering the front of our card. So you'll want to remove my little measurement. By the way, all the measurements will be in the description of this video. So you don't have to write all of these down, or if you miss some, take your bone folder and run across the scoring crease on your cardstock, and that will help your card to lay nice and flat. So this is a bone folder for our new stampers out there, and you'll see me refer to that. You'll see them in class when you come. You'll see me talking about it on our videos as well. So I'm going to start layering up my card. And remember the piece that we cut 5.5 by 4, and I'm simply going to use my green glue, and notice that I am barely putting any on the back at all. Doesn't take much. I'm going to layer that up first on my card. Now notice I've tried to leave about 1/4 of an inch margin around all 4 sides of the card. So that's something to pay attention to when you are putting your cards together. Now we're going to take our designer paper, and let me get some glue on the back of it. Don't need a whole lot, and this is going to fit nicely inside of this space. Going to rub that on. So far, so good. Now I want this to pop up a little bit because this is my main focal image. So I am going to use dimensionals, stamping dimensionals. These are little pieces of foam with adhesive on both sides. And I'm going to put that on the corners of this layer. And that's going to give me, I'm also going to put one in the middle. That's going to give me some good height on my card and make it more of a focal element as a whole on the front of the card. So you pull off the little backings like this. By the way, girls, I have them everywhere in my house, especially after I have class. We're going to center that right here on our card. We're going to go back to our thanks, and we're going to trim off the end, just a rough cut. You can put it on your paper trimmer if you would like, but that's not really necessary. Now, when I put this on, I'm going to have, if you notice, a piece hanging off. So to keep this all one level, I'm going to put a dimensional right here on the end. So the card is has an even height all the way around. And then I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on this top portion. And that will stay nicely adhered to the front of my card. And I have that dimensional under there to keep it all the same height. Now, opening the card on the inside, and things are going along nicely here. Let's pull in our last piece. Now, if I did not have this element on the inside of the card, most likely I would have stamped my greeting here, and then I'd have room to write. But I wanted to make this card as fancy on the inside this time as it is on the outside. So this is why I have the extra layer. You certainly do not have to do that when you create your card, especially if you don't have the contour dies. You could put this element in there, but I would recommend that if this is going to be the inside of your card, that you stamp the inside greeting here before you adhere it to your card base. Why? Because if you mess up on this side, you can always flip the basic white paper over and stamp and have a second chance to line it up much better. Now, because I need to add one more element to the inside, which is my strip of paper, I want to do that again before I attach it to the inside of my card. So let me show you what we're going to do with that piece that was left over out of our 6x6 piece of paper. I want to cover the flap and make it look fancy. And I believe I showed that to you on this card. All of the cards, I took the opposite side of the designer paper and covered the flap. Isn't that pretty? So if you got that in the mailbox and you saw that beautiful pattern, you'd be wondering how beautiful the card was on the inside, probably. So that's the idea. We want it to be exciting from the moment they take it out of the mailbox. So what is the easiest way to do that? Why, just put some glue, not a whole lot because it will gush out the sides. Put your glue on your flap and simply use this to line it up. Now, I need a piece right here to put on the inside of my card. So I'm going to go over as far as I can on this side. So it leaves me just a little strip, and I mean a little strip. There's not going to be much left at all. And I just rub that with my hand, and see that piece that's left? Now, I can take the piece from here, or I can take the piece from here. So let me show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to stay really close to the edge of the envelope. And I'm going to turn, not my scissors, but I'm turning the paper. Just like that. And I'm staying right next to the edge. And this is going to give me that little piece that I need on the inside. Now my flap is covered. I still have the glue portion here that I'll need to seal up the envelope. I have this piece left. Now, I took it to my trimmer. I wanted it to be really neat, and I went right in the middle. I went right in the middle to get out that piece. I trimmed off as much as I could. I don't need a big piece. You can eyeball it. Now, hopefully this is long enough. If it's not, that's okay. But it is just about the right size. Now, I need to notice it's not even. So what you need to do is either bring your trimmer back in and trim that up, or leave your scissors at a straight angle and trim that off. And then take your glue, and I think it's just a smidge long. Take your glue, put just a little bit on the back, and then put that on the inside. Now I still have room to write on my card, and if you need to do more writing, you can always write on the inside of the cardstock here, just like you would on any card that you have purchased in the past. So I'm going to center this here, and I feel like I have a very lovely card on the inside as well as the outside. Now, last but not least, the coordinating gems in all 5 colors. We have the polished pink, the pale papaya, evening evergreen, our fresh freesia that we're working with right now, and our soft succulent. So we're going to, I have a package that's already open, and let me show you how we're going to adhere that. On the end of our U-pick tool, or maybe you have the paper piercer from before, either one is going to help you pick these up without introducing the oils from your hands to the gem. So on the end of this U-pick tool, we have a putty on the end of that, and it makes it possible to pick up the gem just like that. So I've never touched it. And I'm going to put, these come in a couple of different sizes. I'm going to put the larger one there, and I'm going to put a smaller one on my greeting, and then I'm going to put another one. When you put gems on and rhinestones and that sort of thing, you want to use odd numbers. So let's look at these that we have created today. And I hope that that's an easy project. I want to bring in the others. All right, let me show that envelope. See, we use the pattern here. We have our soft succulents, our pale papaya, and our polished pink. What a beautiful set of cards. This would be a beautiful gift for someone. Of course, every one of these could have happy birthday and a birthday greeting on the inside. I feel like they're a little bright for a sympathy card, but they certainly would be beautiful for a get well, birthday, thanks type of occasions. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you have questions on these products that I used today and you're interested in incorporating them into your stamping supplies, I would be happy to help you with that. I will have a host code posted, and if I have your payment information on file, I'm happy to help you place your order, or you can order directly on the website. Remember that celebration is still going on through the end of September, and with every $50 you spend, you get free product. And if you don't have that celebration catalog, I'm happy to send it to you. You can also click on the link to my website, and it will take you to that product catalog as well. It's been fun to be with you today and create these projects. I'm here to help when I can, so give me a shout out. Don't forget our pinned petals and hand petals stamp set that we used in the image that we die cut today. Let me bring those in. And our beautiful, beautiful designer papers that we used on our card. There's the one we used today. That's it, my Stampin' friends. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.